Thanks, Craig. Good to go? Okay, good evening, everyone. We're here for the regular council meeting for Wednesday evening, September 21st. I appreciate everyone being here in attendance, online and on the phone as well. We are going to go through introductions, jump right into the meeting, and then I will, come public hearing time, I will explain how the public hearing process will go. Sorry, I know I have to slow down a bit here. How the public hearing process will go, and then we'll get into things. So, round of introductions, we have with us Councillor Belanger.
Good evening, everyone.
Councillor Curtis Clayton. Hi, everyone. Our CEO, Mitch DeVal.
Hello.
Myself, Chris Ewan. Councillor Shane Pelletier.
Evening.
Councillor Ron Mamchuk.
Good evening.
And our Assistant CEO, Dominic Lemoine.
Good evening.
So we will go right into it. Meeting call to order. Item number 1, do I have a mover? Councillor Pelletier. Sorry, Councillor Pelletier second. Councillor Belanger. Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. Sorry, it'll be a show of hands this evening because all council's in person. So that meeting's open 7:01 p.m. Item 2, adoption of the agenda. Do I have a mover? Councillor Mamchuk, second by Councillor Clayton. I just wanted to jump right into quick edit, sorry, for the agenda. I'd like to jump right into the public hearing if the rest of council is okay with that. So we'll go to item 5. Council's good? Mm-hmm.
Yep.
No, we'll go back to normal business after that. Anything else? Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, so we will jump into it. I'll explain how the public hearing process will work this evening. So we will announce the item number, and then our CEO will read it over. I will open the public hearing. Oh, sorry. Sorry, quick pause. We're having technical difficulties here. Do you want me to ask if there's anyone? Can people online hear me still? I know we did a test, but I'd just like to do a double test here. Can somebody please unmute themselves quickly?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay, so if anyone's having issues, it's on your end because we've been confirmed that it's working on our end, so I will continue. So for the public hearings this evening, our CEO will read the item and the information that we need to provide, and then I will open the public hearing. After that, I will ask the presenter first to make their presentation for specific public hearings. If there's no presenter, then I will ask if there's anyone wishing to speak in favor in person. After that, I will ask if there's anyone wishing to speak in favor online or on the phone. Once that's done, and if you are wanting to speak in favor, you will raise your hand if you're in person, or you will just unmute your microphone, turn on your video, or you'll just let us know through phone that you'd like to speak, and you will do so then. You'll be given 10 minutes as chair. That's what I've decided is 10 minutes maximum for anyone speaking. After that, after 9 minutes, I'll give you a 1-minute warning, and then 10 minutes, I will end the conversation. After, we will go to anything received in favor, then we will go to anyone wishing to speak against in person. At that time, anyone wishing to speak against in person will raise their hand, and then we'll bring them forward, and then they can speak. Then we will go online and on the phone. After we complete that, we will go for a general comments time. So if there's no one that's opposed or they don't want to be in favor, that's fine, but I'll ask for general comments, and then that's their time to ask any questions they may have. And then I'll go back to maybe the presenter or the consultants if they have any questions that can be answered, or if they can answer any of the questions from the people that had some concerns or comments. And then I will close the public hearing, and then council, at that time, there's no more public engagement, and council will go to their debate. Without further ado, we will go to item 5.1.1, V19 2022 Titan Environmental Juniper Bay.
The proposal is to vary the required front yard setback from 125 feet to 25 feet in the commercial highway zone. According to the Planning Act, notifications were sent out to 100 meters of said property. It was also sent out to the McDonald Regional Planning District, Regional Manager, Building Inspector, Council, CEO, Fire Chief, and the applicant. A connect message was also sent out. It was posted on site. as well posted at the Illusion Country Store, the municipal board, and our municipal website.
Thank you. We'll open the public hearing at 7:05 PM. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor or make presentation first? In person.
Hi, this is Sean Sinclair online for Boreal Architecture representing Titan Environmental.
Sean, sorry, Sean, just give me 1 second. Is there anyone else, is there anyone in person wishing to speak? Go ahead, Sean.
Hi, sorry. We don't have much to say other than what's written on the Planning Act application. Basically, merging of the 5 lots into the 1 lot for the development of the head office for Titan Environmental. The shape of the current lot is with the setback, is quite detrimental and undevelopable due to how the lot is pie-shaped. So the 125-foot setback actually makes probably 1/3 of the property undevelopable. So because of the road, the old provincial trunk road being cut off there and it no longer operating as an actual highway, it seems we are asking for the setback to be cut to 25 feet to make the lot more developable for the client.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Council, do you have any questions for Sean?
Not here. None here.
No. Okay, thank you. Thanks for your time. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor on the phone or online? Anyone wishing to speak, anything received in favor?
Nothing received.
Anyone wishing to speak against in person? Anyone wishing to speak against on the phone or online? Anything received against?
Nothing received against.
I'll give it one final call. Anyone wishing to make any general comments, questions, speak in favor or against, online, on the phone, or in person? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at 7:07 PM. Do I have a mover? Councillor Clayton, second by Councillor Ramchuk.
Therefore, be resolved that variation application V19-2022 to vary the minimum required front yard distance to 25 feet for the purpose of a commercial business is approved with the following conditions. Yard drainage shall not affect adjacent properties, and 2, the applicant shall obtain a building permit from the RM of Reach.
Thank you. I'll open it for council debate. Council, do you have anything to add? Nothing here? Okay, good.
Thank you very much, Council.
Okay, thank you. I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried 5-0. Thank you. Moving on. Item 5.2.1, C13, 2022 Heinrichs, 1161 Schindel Road, Glen Lee.
The proposal is to allow a garden suite in a agricultural AL limited zone. Again, notifications according to the Planning Act were sent out to 100 meters of the said property, sent out to the McDonald Reach-Out Planning District, Reach-Out Public Works Manager, Building Inspector, Council, CEO, and Fire Chief. It was posted on site, as well as the municipal website, municipal board, and Connect message was also sent out.
Thank you. We'll open the public hearing at 7:09 PM. Is there anyone wishing to speak or make presentation in person, online, or on the phone? Anyone wishing to speak in favor, in person? Anyone wishing to speak in favor, online, or on the phone? Anything received in favor?
Nothing received.
Anyone wishing to speak against in person? Anyone wishing to speak against online or on the phone? Anything received against?
Nothing received against.
One final call. Anyone have general comments, questions, speak in favor or against, in person, online, or on the phone? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at 7:10 PM. Do I have a mover? Councillor Boulanger, second by Councillor Ramchuk.
Therefore, be resolved that conditional use application C13-2022 is approved, subject to the following conditions. 1, applicant shall apply and be approved for a building permit through the RM of Reach-Out office. 2, garden suite shall comply with zoning bylaw 9-2019 as amended, section 5.5. 3, that the applicant conforms to the Manitoba Health Department for the additional septic system. 4, that the garden suite shall not be rented to the general public at any time. And 5, that the applicant provides a signed confirmation letter accepting the terms of this order. There may be site audits conducted to ensure compliance, and any non-compliance issues may be caused to revoke the conditional use at any time.
Thank you. I will open up for council discussion. Council, do you have anything to debate?
I saw the comment about the location on the site. We talked about it being, around the bend on the driveway there. There's no dimensions or anything, but obviously they have to conform to where our setbacks are. Would have been nice to have a winter site plan for this location. There's a sketch of where it is, right, with no dimensions. Just wanna make sure it's, that's all. That's in the conditions, I think, right, that it's gonna be under, which is why, we're doing this.
I will ensure that at the building permit time that it does comply with all the site locations and variations.
Thank you. Good, Councilor.
Thank you.
Anything else from council? Not here. Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item 5.3.1, bylaw 10/2022, close a portion of public road at corner of Oak Grove and Burnett Road in Grand Point.
So basically, the notifications have been sent again to 100 meters of said property, as well as being posted in the local papers for a certain time period based on the Planning Act. And I believe the circulations were sent to the MRPD, reach out, Public Works Manager, Building Inspector, Council, applicant, posted on site, municipal board, municipal website, and connect message was sent as well as 100 meters of the said property.
Thank you. I'll open the public hearing at 7:12 PM. Is there anyone wishing to make presentation, in person, online, or on the phone? Anyone wishing to speak in favor in person? Anyone wishing to speak in favor online or on the phone? Anything received in favor?
Nothing received?
Anyone wishing to speak against in person? Anyone wishing to speak against online or on the phone? Anything received against?
Nothing received against?
One final call, if there's anyone wishing to make any general comment, speak in favor or against, in person or on the phone or online. Oh, there's a hand raised.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just have a general question as to what exactly is going to be going on this land.
The proposal is to close that portion of the land, and then a subdivision will be coming forward from the applicant Valley Fiber for the purpose of a fiber optic network system.
So as far as like the details of the structure or whatever will go there, is this the appropriate time to be asking about that, or is that at a later meeting?
I believe there will be a separate item in the future once the land comes to subdivision stage. So it would be premature to answer those questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Thanks, Jason. Anything else from anyone online, on the phone, or in person? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at 7:14 PM. Do I have a mover? Councilor Manchuk, second. Councilor Boulanger.
Be it resolved that council gives second reading to bylaw 10-2022, being a bylaw to close part of the public road plan 12085 in Grand Point.
Thank you. I will open it for council debate. Council, any comments?
Good start for internet in Grand Point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As Jason just stole my thunder, it is a portion of the old 59 being closed for that purpose. We did receive 2 comments from Bell MTS and Manitoba Hydro. I believe Bell has a pedestal or something in the way that we'll have to watch out for, as well as Manitoba Hydro will require an easement for that purpose.
Thank you.
And we don't think there's gonna be a tower on the site, right? It'll just be the ROC, I believe they call it, the.
I cannot remember
I think this one does.
if
Okay.
it does or not, so when the application comes in for it, we'll deal with it
Yeah.
accordingly, so.
Why does Manitoba need it, Hydro need an easement? Where
To
their-
serve, to service the line, according to
Where-
their
where their line
response.
Obviously, it's
Manitoba will require the landowner to enter into a statutory easement with Hydro in regards to existing and future facilities associated with the road closing.
clear line.
Good,
Yep.
thank you.
They still likely have a registered easement following Old 59
The old
there,
59.
yeah,
Okay.
even if they don't have a line there anymore.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Fair enough, thanks.
Nothing else from council, I'll call for the question, all those in favor? That's carried, thank you. We'll just finish that one up. 5.3.1.2, bylaw 10-2022, third reading, do I have a mover? Councilor Pelletier, second by Councilor Clayton. Final thoughts, same thing? Yep, nothing, okay, I'll call for the question, all those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Okay, item 5.4, landmark planning, Terracon development, and IDC public hearings.
All right, there will be many, concepts as far as the public hearing goes regarding this matter. The first will be regarding a proposed subdivision 4165-2022-8176 that will result in the creation, I'm reading, yes, that will result in the creation of new public roads and lots within the development. Secondly, we will also talk about, number 2, which is the rezoning of some parcels within that subdivision if approved. Rezoning from RG8, which is residential general, to, RG5, as well as some public reserve, parks and rec, spacing, and as well as a rezoning from an AL to RG5 for block 15, which lies west of the old 59. So that's number 2. Number 3, as well, the council will, we will be opening the public hearing for number 3, which will be to allow a multifamily and 2-family residential in the following proposed lots, of the proposed subdivision. So for the multifamily, it is in block 4 and block 15. And in regards to the 2-family, it will be block 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 14. As well, there will be discussions on a variation. The variation is proposed for the full 234 lot subdivision. Regarding minimum front yard setbacks for all single-family lots from 30 feet to 20 feet. The minimum rear yards setbacks for all proposed multifamily and RG8 single-family lots from 25 feet to 20 feet. Minimum side yards for all lots from 5 feet to 4 feet. Minimum side yards for all proposed lots without a lane at the rear of the site from 10 feet to 4 feet. And minimum street side yards for all corner lots from 10 feet to 5 feet. And last but not least, to be included in the public hearing is the closure of a portion of Dufo Drive. And that's indicated on maps that were sent out on the notice as well.
You're good? Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll open the public hearing at 7:20 PM. Is the presenter ready to go? Thank you. Take it away.
Great, thank you, Mayor, thank you, councilors, administration, really appreciate the opportunity of presenting today. Hopefully, the information that I provide in the presentation will be helpful in rendering a decision and helpful for everyone in attendance to understand what's being contemplated.
Excuse me, sir, your name?
Thank you, I'm Roger Daves, Landmark Planning, Design, 290 Waterfront Drive, Winnipeg. I'm here also with two representatives from Terracon, Justin Swandell and Matt Glavin, and also Brendan Johnson from our team on at Landmark. Other team members not here, AECOM, who handled the transportation consulting, if you will, and then Stantec, who handled the servicing part of the project. We're excited in terms of presenting what we think is a really well-planned and thoughtful possible addition to town. We've taken our time, spent, as you may be aware, for the last 6 to 8 months, studying, talking, engaging folks in town and around, refining, designing, and we're pretty confident about the project that we're putting in front of council for your consideration. This first slide just sets some context for the subject site as it was described in that solid orange line.
Sorry, something.
Thank you.
Are you having an issue with the TV?
Yeah, can you just add the closed captions on there, so like, I can't hear everything, so.
Right, right.
If you would mind.
Okay, we can sorry, here.
I can speak up, no?
Sure, we'll get you to speak up too.
In theory, the circular wall is
Yeah.
supposed to bounce back.
Testing 1, 2, 3, we're checking the closed captions on the TV, 1, 2. We'll speak a little louder too.
I'll work on that, thank you. Good to go? Yeah, great, thank you very much. So in this slide, the solid orange line represents the existing built-up area of town. It includes all the areas, not just the residential, but there's the rural residential across the highway, industrial, looking up to the north. And then at the number 2, the orange dashed line representing the built-up area that's primarily residential, single family. Of course, we know there's schools and other uses in there, and the subject site immediately south of this built-up area for context in terms of both location and size related to the town area. The site is designated in the development plan for urban settlement, urban center as it's called here, and again, the subject site is shown in that large orange area, which is the entire designated area for town. So it represents a portion of that entire designated area for urban center. Again, on the development plan, the town is designated as an urban center, as I've just noted on the map. The bullets you see in front of you are takeaway policies from what does the plan look for in an urban center to provide opportunities for single-family and multifamily residential, to create pedestrian-friendly interconnected neighborhoods, to create communities that are interesting and pleasing to the eye. It's an interesting set of words for a policy. Usually it's a lot drier than that. Through a mix of green space and diversified development, so different kinds of development. Balance urban form with green space and promote active lifestyles by providing active transportation infrastructure. And we're pleased, you'll see in the plans that we will propose to, or we are proposing to include active transportation infrastructure. Then step down, if you will, in the regulatory change to zoning, from development plan to zoning. And this graphic at the number 1, you can see north of the subject site shown again in that red dashed line, there's RG5, there's RMH zoning, just north of that, there's existing RG8 north of the subject site, and in the subject site, substantially zoned RG8 already, but there is also a section of agricultural limited in the subject site that also would need rezoning. And we're proposing a set of zones similar to the set of zones that exist in the balance of town. That would be RG8, RG5, and RMH for multifamily. So then zooming in a little bit to a sketch many will have seen because we've shared this many times through public engagement and stakeholders and in technical meetings. But just to gain a characterization of what is being proposed in that lighter yellow at the number one, all, single-family lots. And then in that, next step of orange, the two-family lots, and we'll talk a little bit about these during the presentation. And then 2 areas for multifamily as well. So a total of 112 single-family lots, 122 family lots, and 2 multifamily blocks. When we talk about road, just to do a bit of a guided tour around this plan, in terms of roads, it's important to note the completion of Rosy Bloom, and we'll show that in context of an aerial photo in a subsequent plan, so we can see how that looks compared to the existing part of Rosy Bloom at the north. And then we titled it Dufault Greenway. So as has been mentioned by setting the application, Dufault, the right-of-way continues south. We're proposing to close that right-of-way. It's a significant, on the one hand, traffic intervention, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but it also presents this great opportunity for active transportation connection. So it's 2 birds there with that action. Significant size collector road shown at the south, heading east-west to connect from the old 59 to the easterly lands. And then the local streets, which aren't shown labeled here, but we'll show on a subsequent slide some possible naming as well. Then moving over to park features, I already mentioned the Dufault Greenway, and I guess we'll talk a little bit further than that. Utilizing that closed road for a pedestrian greenway, which would lead straight south to a really neat village square concept that we've shared with many before. We're pretty excited about that idea. We think it would be a really neat asset for town, and it's not new around the world. Of course, these exist all over the place, proven to be functional and really interesting, and will provide a really great recreation area for those, anybody outside town or whoever wants to walk this way. And then, not of insignificance, the neighborhood lake, which would be a real, again, interesting water feature accompanied by a park. So all in all, over 10 acres of green space and lake are planned with significant pedestrian connections and pathways. So just zooming in, I mentioned we would show the context at Rosy Bloom. So what you're seeing in the top part of this drawing on the left side is existing Rosy Bloom Lane and the lots that exist there as well, and then the continuation that we're proposing to continue south. And then again, of significance, drawing attention to the closing or proposed closing of Dufault, that traffic won't just race down and be upsetting to existing neighborhoods. People who go here are people who will be from here, so that helps on the cut-through traffic issue. And also, just note that the size of the Rosy Bloom lots on the south side of Rosy Bloom, they contain single-family homes. The ones that are proposed, it may be a little hard to see on the drawing, but they're substantially larger as a deference to the existing lots there. So we wanted to pay some attention to folks, because we know it's never comfortable to host something new when you haven't had something new in your backyards for some time, and we are empathetic of that change. In terms of vehicular connection, so the red lines in this graphic are everything in the red lines, based on our engineering analysis through AECOM, people will be generally traveling along those red lines when they're leaving the subdivision to the west towards Old 59. People travel the path of least resistance. If you studied this drawing, we could certainly talk about whether you agreed with those where we've got those lines of flow, but we're fairly confident people will choose the path of least resistance, and so that's what you see on this map, is that path of least resistance where people will tend to go towards Old 59. Not everybody is going to go towards Old 59. Again, you build up a town and people use all the town streets. That's how it works, but we're sensitive to the fact that when you build a new area, that you create a change sometimes in traffic flow. So those westerly lots on that more westerly street, you can see snuck a label in there that's proposed to be named as Homestead. Some of those people will go down Lamoureux or Arnault and so forth to get into town. And then in terms of pedestrian connections, back in the day in the older part of the town, didn't do sidewalks. Most old towns didn't do sidewalks and pathways at the time. We think this is an opportunity to introduce some really great pathway connections. You know, the school is nearby, so everything you see in red, are proposed pathways or sidewalks, so you can see, you know, a pretty great network through the subdivision, and, in the pathway heading off to the northeast by the lake to connect to the Lamb Room and get people closer to the school. And the bullet indicates we're very happy to work with, council and the future administration if, you want to talk about, planning off-site, infrastructure that's not there, then I know Terracon's very open to talking to council administration about that. In terms of servicing connections, it is a serviceable site. We have the professionals from Stantec advising ourselves and advising you through us, of course, and working with the Public Works Administrator on land drainage and servicing, and feel comfortable about how it can be serviced. There was lots of discussion about land drainage and would people be negatively impacted. The answer is no, it will not be negatively impacted, and it's our duty together with your Public Works folks to make sure that doesn't happen. This graphic does show that land drainage heads down, maybe no surprise to some, down to the Seine River diversion. And, you know, the plan includes that lake, which is not just there for good looks, although it is a really nice asset, it is functional. It is meant to retain that stormwater and stormwater events, so it doesn't overwhelm systems, and then it can be slowly released in time and make its way down to the Seine River diversion. Here we've got a sample we want to show something to indicate the quality. People ask what will be built here. We just heard that in the previous public hearing. You want to know what will be built there. And when you talk land use or zones, then, you know, all sorts of images may come to mind, and they may not be the right images. And certainly these are samples. I'm not saying we're building these 3 types of homes, so please don't, you know, hold us to build these 3 types of homes. But these images give a very good sense of the quality, number one, of homes that would be built. There's articulation, you know, relief in the pattern of the build. You can see it's not just one blank wall. Nice articulation, great roof lines, good quality materials, a variety of materials. So Terracon intends to implement design standards to ensure that these kinds of quality buildings would be built. And then we have some samples of 2-family, and same thing, you know, travel around the country and people have different words for different types of housing, and sometimes you hear a word like a duplex or 2-family or whatever the word is, and it can create images that people may not appreciate what is actually intended. These images are meant to indicate, again, that quality that you can have and the interest and design that you can have for 2-family homes. And the overall idea, I think, in a town, and therefore also in a new neighborhood, is to provide a variety of home styles, home types for different demographics. We're not all one demographic, and I'm confident council wants to accommodate all kinds of people at different stages of life, kids who are moving from home, being able to live in town and so forth. But mainly we want to communicate, again, the quality that can be built on a 2-family lot. We've had some discussion about something called Radburn lot. There's one street in the entire subdivision in which Terracon wants to do something innovative. Now, when I say innovative, I don't mean untested or new or untried. It's actually an old idea from the 50s. There are a couple, at least 2 neighborhoods in Winnipeg that have successfully implemented whole neighborhood of Radburn lots, Wildwood Park, Norwood Flats, and I know this isn't Winnipeg, so don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we should import Winnipeg here, but I do mean to say that those are very high value lots, and so the change in this particular pattern of lot doesn't mean low value, and it also doesn't have to mean a nightmare of maintenance and so forth. And we'll show a cross-section which might help characterize how everything could work, but we're confident it will work. We think it's a great idea. It'll create some really interesting lot configurations for people walking along the lake and seeing the fronts of homes while having a really good vehicular access to it. That's the cross-section, so we'll just walk council through, and again, this is 8% of the subdivision. This is not the whole subdivision, it's one street, as I said. And it represents about 8%, but we think it would be really noteworthy to try this in this location, as it's been done successfully elsewhere. So starting at the left is one home, and then a yard to the garage, moving left to right. I think I can see my fingers. And then, you see the area to park the car, regular driveway, so there's parking. There's also the laneway, or the roadway, if you will, is not just a back lane, as you might imagine it. Because again, that's an image that I think has been placed perhaps incorrectly. There's room for on-street parking, there's 2 drive lanes, oops, and then, go there. And then, there's a utility corridor after that. As we go to the right, there's another driveway with room for 2 cars on the driveway. So again, I think some of the early discussions, maybe, folks thought that this wouldn't be something that could be maintainable. It's very much the same, it's just that the one configuration of the house is different. So you get that second house, the yard, and the second house at the far right. And then you get park, so you don't have a road at the end, and that's actually the rather part of it, is that there's a park at your front door. And, I for one grew up in Wildwood Park and quite fond of it, and I can attest myself that it worked really well, and, again, created high value lots, not low value lots. A little bit about the village square. These are inspirational pictures, of course, they're photographs, so you know it's not built yet, but, we wanted to try and convey some excitement and understanding of what would be proposed. So in this case, we're proposing one-way street around the village square, 2.25 acre park space in the middle, and homes fronting on that park with streets in between, everybody facing the park, and as an image on the right. The only thing different in the image on the right is we're not proposing an apartment block like that as shown in this image, but we wanted to show something that gives the character of homes looking over a street to a park. The image in the middle is in Waverly West. It's a circular, not a square, clearly, but same idea with the street and then home facing that park. In terms of lot sizes, the proposed zoning is a combination, as I mentioned, of RG8, RG5, and RMF. And the RG5 zone permits 5,000 square foot lot areas with 50-foot frontages. Bulk standards for 2-family lots are half that, 20, because you got the 2 homes. You add them together, they're the same as a single family. But 2,500 and 25-foot frontages. Most of the proposed single-family lots are more than 7,000 square feet in area with 60-foot frontages, and most of the 2-family lots are more than 3,500 square feet in area ranging from 25 to 30-foot frontages, as noted. So that rezoning is being requested to ensure the efficiency of municipal servicing. So it's more homes, less land, less municipal services. And to provide a diversity of housing products and stock, as I mentioned, to accommodate all sorts of demographics and stages of life. We are proposing conditional use, as the CAO outlined at the beginning. This application includes conditional use request to permit the development of 2-family lots and multifamily blocks within the RG5 zoning district. We kind of think this is a quirk of the zoning bylaw. 2-family are allowed in RG8 for some reason. I haven't figured out why not in RG5, so they're not permitted outright yet. That's just for conditional use permission, which we're doing. That conditional use approval is intended to accommodate that desirable mix I mentioned. And that request is supported by the development plan, neighborhood planning policy. The variations were also introduced, and this is the four both describe the variations. We're requesting a front yard of 20 feet for the RG8 lots, those are the ones at the top and the north. A rear yard of 20 feet as well, and for the multifamily lots, a side yard of 4 feet for all proposed building lots, and a corner side yard of 5 feet for all proposed building lots. It's a package, the plan that we showed, the houses that we showed, the road design, the parks, are all, we consider that a package, and these variations accommodate that package, and we're certainly open to discussion about these items. So then, stepping aside a little bit, or back a little bit, we've had extensive community process and opportunities to listen and hear and respond, and I can describe those responses as required. How we heard what people have said, and how the design does, or perhaps in some cases doesn't respond or doesn't satisfy various concerns that were raised. But we feel really good about the responses. We held the meetings in February, as indicated in the bottom left, in April, May, and June again, and here we are at a public meeting as well, public hearing in September. The next 4 slides are what we heard in terms of those topics. They're all titled in the green boxes on the left: traffic, parking, and safety. I've indicated that we did conduct a traffic analysis, with the help of AECom. The traffic review indicates that additional traffic can be managed properly. That's a big statement. It's backed by an analysis. Often traffic is a difficult thing to characterize for people, and additional cars often feel like too many more cars. So we'll provide a little context on that. The project team, are committed, working collaboratively with the RM and MTI to ensure that smooth, safe integration of existing infrastructure. Of course, every town has to tie into existing streets, that's how we grow. Proposed pedestrian connections and AT will take into consideration, broader trail systems and things to connect to. And we have that street pattern that I described, especially the closing of Depot, but also there's more thought to how traffic would move through the neighborhood and discourage that cut-through traffic that can be really disruptive when you're doing something new or hoping to do something new in a new area. And we will, of course, adhere to all municipal planning documents and meet or exceed parking requirements. And that was raised by a lot of people, who've had some troubles here about parking on the street. Land drainage, I've mentioned, and it will be managed, it must be managed. We will continue to work with Public Works Department to make sure that happens and people aren't negatively impacted by drainage, wastewater, water, and hydro. Again, Terracon will be responsible for the cost of providing such infrastructure or upgrades to any municipal infrastructure that are required, including a lift station to carry the wastewater to the municipal lagoon. That's not on the town to pay for that and pass that on. We had lots of questions about, are my taxes gonna go towards this development? And that isn't, of course, how it works, that Terracon will be paying their way. There is sufficient water capacity, and we know the RM is working on mid and long-term plans for additional water supply to make sure that you can accommodate your reasonable growth rate. And construction, so people asking about, where will construction go, traffic go, it's a really legitimate concern. The street's gonna be disrupted. We will work with the administration. That usually comes later, of course, if an approval is granted, that we start to work with administration on construction routes. I can confidently say we wouldn't be using Lamoureux for, to the east for a construction route. It would make abundant sense to use Old 59, although of course we have residents there too. So we'll work on a plan with the RM. And that last bullet is an important one. Terracon is an experienced developer. It's not their first rodeo in terms of planning and constructing and administering brand new neighborhoods. They've done that successfully, so RM isn't dealing with rookies in terms of the sensitive touch. The site configuration, the site plan includes matching land use, and this is one of the most important, and it sort of gets overlooked at times, and it's really a difficult conversation when you want to plan something new besides something that's existing already. You want to do that sensitively, and one of the biggest things that we can do is plan something in the same use category as what's existing. So in this case, at the north, there's single-family homes. We could have laid this thing out 100 ways. We didn't lay it out with multifamily beside it because even though we're okay with multifamily, others may not be. We didn't plan any of the two-family there, but single-family for substantial difference and for larger lot sizes. So we wanted to be sensitive to that adjacent use, and I think it's a good response from our perspective. Existing connections for Old 59 to the north and south will be maintained. That was raised as an issue, and perhaps you'll hear some of these issues tonight. Just offering what's occurred to date in terms of conversation, particularly concerning the existing RV park to the south. Design and aesthetics, I've talked quite a bit about that in terms of the images I've shared, the quality development, green space and transportation. The neighborhood will add those pedestrian connections in that 10 acres of park space that I indicated, which are probably above normal ratios you would expect in the area. And lastly, density. If the topic exists everywhere we go, density can be a dirty word in places we don't believe it needs to be. We're confident that the density that's proposed is very reasonable, and we've got a graphic to talk about some statistics and to allow council to consider whether it's reasonable or not. So on that topic, Plan 2058 is a draft plan. We all know it hasn't come yet, and so all of these bullets are in the context. We know that's a draft plan. We do believe that it is coming, and it does help set some context. The requirements in there are meant to support optimal servicing, so making your infrastructure really efficient. And it also establishes density targets, the quotation pulled out of there that's relevant to this application. Rural centers such as Ocean are intended to accommodate, mixed-use development at higher densities. What's higher? We won't see, you'll see in the numbers that we don't think that, this is a high-density plan. I think it's really appropriate. That draft plan does look for a, minimum density of 4.8. That says UPA, that's units per acre, so how many units can you put on an acre of land? And then they actually have an ideal target of 6.9 units per acre, and the proposed development is almost a little over half that, 3.85 units per acre. So still very, small town, if you will. And then this graphic is the last one on that density topic, but the chart at the left talks about that draft plan target. I just mentioned the 6.9. It mentions the 4.85 units per acre, as a minimum. And then, some of the adjacent, we calculated the adjacent land, just for context. The blue Rosy Moon Lane is at 5.11 units per acre, Dufo, Bonato, and that includes that mobile, home park. Those are units, at 4.56. The one exception here is the orange one, Hamilton Sharon, neighborhood. It's off the charts low because it's got a lot of vacant land and has a big school site on it. So if we took those out, and we'd probably back up where the other ones are. I skipped over Rendezvous Drive there at 5.36, and then the subject site at 3.85. So we think it's quite a reasonable, density. Almost through. Traffic impact study, the analysis that I referred to already estimates that 80% of generated traffic would travel west via the new roads I mentioned to Old 59 and about 20 the other way. And then the last two bullets are a statistic we ask the engineers to generate. It can be really hard to convey how much traffic is, what is it going to be like, as you can appreciate. How do you describe that, and how do you get a feel for it? Because when we talk traffic, everyone concludes a different thing in their head. And so we boil it down to the worst, quote-unquote, time of the day, which is rush hour, we all know, and the morning and the evening, or the evening and the morning. So we asked them to give us how many more vehicles per minute, so that you could actually wait a minute. And so in the evening rush hour, 5 more vehicles per minute. So if I like to convey this idea of standing on the street, seeing that first additional car, and then waiting. I guess 60 by 5, you wait 10, 12 seconds for the next one. And then you wait another 12 for the next one. So, and then in the morning, even less, 4 per minute, you wait 15 seconds. So, yes, new subdivisions come with people who drive cars. How will it be on the street? This is the worst case scenario. We think, others have to decide for themselves, but we do the study, and that's the result. So all in all, as I said, we are very empathetic and have been listening and patient with trying to respond to concerns that arise, and council, I'm sure, will hear some of their own tonight, perhaps. We feel we've really taken those into consideration and planned a really great neighborhood that will be functional, a real asset, we think, to the town and to the RM, and had an opportunity to do some new things as well, in terms of pedestrian connections, lakes, and parks. This graphic demonstrates that, as we've seen throughout the presentation. This one does have some new possible road names. We'll talk with council if council sees fit to go forward with this project. We will certainly be happy to accommodate any requests and ideas. In summary, we do believe the proposed development is much needed, and it is a positive addition to the RM in town. For these reasons listed here, it is consistent with the policies of the development plan. There were no concerns, I hadn't mentioned this, but there were no concerns identified during the province and circulation of the application. That is noteworthy. There are almost always some kind of concern from a department or two. It is designed to be considerate of adjacent and existing uses. It will satisfy the market for new livable neighborhoods. It will provide new and existing residents with a choice of housing. So that last statement is just to indicate, we do understand we're still only at a point in time in this process. There's more to go in terms of if council moves forward with this, there'll be more planning, more working with the administration, other studies to be done in terms of servicing and so forth. So it is a point in time to consider the land use. And with that in mind, we'd be very happy to take any questions either now or during the rebuttal period.
Appreciate it. Council, do you have any questions right now for the presenter?
variation from setback. So this is what the setback, what we're hoping to, apply for, but we didn't really touch on the purpose. So from 25 to 20, for example, what's the purpose of it?
For sure, and it's not a complex, don't provide a complex answer, it's fairly straightforward in the sense that, I mentioned the package of what's in this design as a full neighborhood. It essentially makes it more efficient, and there are some funny rules in terms of those two, side yard and corner yard setbacks. There's some funny rules that are designed to, the rule of the way it's worded is designed to give everybody a sense of elbow space and that everything isn't crammed too far together, but the reality is with the houses in the garage style, you end up shifting things so that you don't actually realize that, that space you would get from a 10-foot side yard. It's actually, you experience it at the back, and those back areas become like sort of the back part, of the side. They end up being spaces for RVs if they're too wide, or sheds that are unregulated if they're too wide, so, that's why we're asking for those, and it's more efficient overall. It is the idea, those density targets relate to these variances. If you have these variances, you can't accomplish those densities. In terms of the 20 feet, we think actually bringing them forward still allows for parking on the driveway, so you're not parking on the street. And it actually creates a really neat character for the street in terms of that front yard. In terms of the rear yard, these are new homes facing new homes, and so that 20 feet is, we think, ample. And so hence the request. One thing to consider is what's allowed in that 20 feet. So sometimes if your deck is a certain height, now your deck, you gotta be 20 feet outside. In this case, if we get what we're asking for here, the distance between the deck then has to be 20 feet from the fence. So, there's those subtle considerations, and also the big one in terms of the overall density.
So the corner, what's called the corner side yard, like those setbacks are pretty much for snow clearing or other things like that. So going from 10 to, I think it's 10 right now, or 8, 10 to 5, that's a significant difference. And I would fear that we'll get in trouble with our public works.
Okay.
You know, so have you had those experiences before? Like,
Well, often, like snow clearing, generally, I'm not sure if you're storing snow on the private side or you're storing it in the boulevard typically, because that would be something to consider in that corner side yard scenario. And also, I'm gonna ask probably one of the reps from Terracon here to speak to it in rebuttal, because they'll have more technical understanding of the maintenance and so forth, and I don't want to speak out of turn, if that's okay. But we will address it further in rebuttal, if that's right.
yeah, no, appreciate it, thank you.
I got any questions? Yeah, can I go next? Yeah. Thanks for the presentation. I need a bit of help kind of visualizing what we're gonna be seeing when we drive into the, development. So, we've got the public road that runs east-west to the public reserve. So if I was looking at, I guess, to the north of that road, we've got the two-family residential. Okay, so those units, they would have, I'm assuming an attached garage and another, spot or, pad for vehicle, or?
Do you mean the first unit, Counselor, as a two-family block I'm pointing at here?
I can't see. My glasses are pretty good.
It's right underneath the, at the, right by the park,
I could even show you mine here.
Sure, yeah.
Dominique, there's no way to get rid of that far.
It's basically, I'm just thinking about,
Okay.
basically the Radburn concept, and I know you showed me sort of a cross section,
Okay.
but I'm just trying to put it onto this map here.
Sure, I can help out, no problem.
Okay, I know you had some detached garages, I was just curious how the access works.
Right, okay. So the Radburn, and thank you, Counselor, and I should have made this clear when I was talking about the Radburn, it's only, these lots that are proposed as Radburn. Can you see my arrow?
Block 2 and 3, or?
I'll point to it here. Just these lots here. These are the only Radburn lots.
Okay.
The rest are all normal configuration.
Okay.
So when you come in to your question to that east-west street, you see normal street,
Fair enough.
including sidewalk
Okay.
and landscaping and so forth. Yeah. So, yeah, those Radburn lots, again, but I appreciate it takes a while to visualize it. Unless you're going to those lots, you won't actually experience them, right? Because they're tucked away in and behind the park and on the lake. If you imagine yourself on the far side of the lake, say the east side of the lake, looking across the lake, you would see homes and fronts of homes on the park. Yeah, so it's like quite beautiful in that respect. And where do those people get to their homes? They get to go by the street behind them. And so it's just a little bit of a tweak to create, you know, a really neat scenario.
Okay, that's fair. So I had it in block 2 and 3, which wasn't right.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, just the misplaced location.
There you go.
I added to the confusion, apologies.
You're good, Council? Anything else from Council?
I have one other story, if you could. I know there's some concern about closing Depot Drive, and you're making that into a green corridor, which is always great to see in a neighborhood. So it looks now that it's actually becoming an S, so if you go down to Rosie Bloom, you would S around and, you know, to me, that looks like almost like you're controlling traffic, slowing down traffic to bring it through the neighborhood rather than having a straight shot through. And, because we were always hearing, everybody's always saying, can we change the speed limit from 50 to 35, and, you know, so we're trying, is this, in your experience, is it doing that without holding a sign?
I think you hit the nail on the head. This is the number one way to reduce speed and to reduce cut-through traffic is in your initial street layout. And we've done this in other situations. Again, we're always attaching new streets to existing streets, and it's a regular problem, so we've learned how to deal with it in an effective way. It is the case that, you make it difficult to go from A to B, so people don't want to go there. And when they have to turn more, they prefer not to turn more. I prefer not to turn more. We're all humans. So what you're seeing there and the way you described it is exactly right. This will mean reduced traffic on Depot from, rather than connecting it straight through. We think that's probably the most effective thing we could possibly do, and we're confident it would be effective.
Okay, great.
Mr. CEO, you have a question?
I'll let council finish.
Council, do you have any more questions?
Density, you want to put it slightly?
Sure, yeah.
Please.
Oh.
Your 385, is that excluding the multifamily?
Yeah, we
Okay.
excluded the multifamily because we excluded the multifamily that's existing up,
Yeah.
on the highway. So if we added that in, then we would, for comparison, we would also add in the existing.
Yeah, just, the wording we had on one of our documents, it looked like it was included but ignored, so.
Okay, no,
that
our intent
clarifies
is to be
looking
clear,
at that.
the red line excludes those, and also, you know, when we do talk about density, especially in a largely single-family setting, people wanna know about the single-family and two-family home density.
Yeah.
And, including multifamily skews it, because it's a totally different form. So, no, if there was some miscue, it was not a deliberate misrepresentation.
That's it for now, yeah.
Mr. CEO?
Sorry, quite a few questions. On one of the slides, you presented samples of the single-family homes.
Sure.
These are intended for the RG8, but will they also fit on the RG5 zone?
These are the ones we're looking at here. This is the second slide with
That's a two-family.
yeah, so
But on the RG5, would a single-family fit? Because there's some lots.
The bungalow in the middle would be an RG8 lot.
Okay.
Matt just clearing that for me.
Thank you.
And the other ones would be RG5. So you can see the footprints are different, or RG8. So again, sample, so, yeah, try to be clear in the titling and my words that these are samples.
Okay. You mentioned the Radburn and examples of Norwood and Wildwood.
Yeah.
This would not be a true Radburn because the two properties aren't facing each other with a sidewalk, correct? As
True.
those
It's a
neighborhoods
piece of
there,
sidewalk.
they are separate,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit more breathing room
Yeah.
for what I would call it.
This, are you asking me if this presents more breathing room than a Wildwood, for example?
Right.
I would say it's comparable, and again, if you look at the distances between the two homes shown here, that's very substantial, so, and then the distance, I didn't even show the distance off the right side of the drawing,
Right.
which would be off, over near the chair here, so that's the exaggeration, but a long way, so the breathing room is more than ample, we would say.
Village Square versus a roundabout, why square versus roundabout?
Just as
Okay.
a.
Concerns regarding, I know we've heard concerns regarding hydro. Has any consultation been had with Manitoba Hydro, regarding?
Yeah, Manitoba Hydro is aware of the proposal and typically they will, sort of give a very broad, as you appreciate, a very broad, we should be good here in terms of capacity, and then all the details come after. Of course, we can't go too far without knowing whether to go or not.
As we provide those comments to developers ourselves, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Last but not least, on the density calculations, just to wrap it up around my head, when you're talking density, are lakes excluded, are parks excluded from the overall calculation? So when you say at 3.8, is that based on the?
All net of park. All
The net of any
net
public
park.
reserve or
Yeah.
anything like that? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Seer?
You betcha.
Okay, any final things from council? No, I appreciate your time. Thank you, Donovan.
Great, thank you, councilors. Yeah.
Okay, we'll now go into, anyone wishing to speak in favor, in person. Anyone online or on the phone wishing to speak in favor? Anything received in favor?
Nothing received in favor.
Speak in favor.
Go ahead, Lee.
Thanks. Thanks for allowing us some time to speak tonight. I'm Lise Durand-Bale, and my husband Bruce is here with me as well. We want to speak in favor of the development, but we do have some questions as well. As someone who's grown up and been part of the town of Ile-des-Chênes for most of my life, and now as my husband Bruce and I are business owners and residents in this very same town, we're certainly very happy that there is development in Ile-des-Chênes. Like my family, who have lived and still live in town, we're keen to take part in the growth of Ile-des-Chênes. The new proposed McDonald Region Planning District Development Plan supports mixed land use to form complete communities, incorporating housing and employment options for all ages. If the development of Ile-des-Chênes is only comprised of housing options as proposed in this plan, it makes Ile-des-Chênes a bedroom community, and that indeed misses the mark of a thriving town. Not to mention, a tax base that contains both commercial and residential income is more sustainable long-term than a purely residential tax base. With regard to the multifamily lots on Old 59, we just want to ensure that there will be sufficient parking allotted for the residents and their guests, as to ensure there be less parking on Old 59.
So that's referring to that,
Further, we took part in the council meeting where there was discussion about the St. Adolphe development and the problems they were having with construction, garbage, and mud. Given the landmark planning is involved in both the St. Adolphe and the Ile-des-Chênes developments, we would like to know how the municipality has resolved this problem in St. Adolphe and how it will approach this in the Ile-des-Chênes development to avoid these same issues. Who will be responsible for making sure this is taken care of, given it's the Trudeau family that still owns the property and not the developer? And lastly, we may have concerns about where the construction access will be located, as we can't have mud all over the road to then be tracked into our RV park if the access will be via Old 59. In fact, we've already had some concerns from our clients about these issues, as well as possible construction noise. So we are in favor. We just have those small questions and concerns that we would love if either Landmark or Terracon could respond to.
I'll have them, many rebuttals or answering questions after everyone spoke tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else online or on the phone wishing to speak in favor? Anything received?
Nothing received in favor.
Okay, is there anyone in person wishing to speak against? You can come up first, sir. Just your name and address for the record.
Sure, where would you like to stand?
Just right in the front here. You can have a seat there, thank you.
Alright. You got 10 minutes for that?
Wait, I guess there's no worry.
Alright.
Yeah, my name is Stephen Petznick. I live at 342 Rosy Bloom Lane, south side of Rosy Bloom, where this development is going to be directly adjacent to my home. So, I'd like to say that I'd almost object to the entire proposal. We've gone through meetings, and yes, it's been 6 months of talking to the community rather than talking with. We've gone through, I think the first 2 meetings were just showing us a few top-level designs before going into actual development of the site. The latter of the meetings, we finally started to address some concerns regarding things like closing off Depot. We had problems, we were talking about previously where our developer for Rosy Bloom had given us an assurance that we were going to be receiving drainage and everything else behind us before the new development started. That obviously is not happening. We've already discussed this in detail, and I know that this isn't something that's going to change. However, it feels like that Landmark and Terracon are only concerned with the new housing being brought in. We have 11 or 12, I believe, of us that are on Rosy Bloom South. And anytime our concerns have been brought up, even to a degree where, you know, let's do a little bit of a redesign and see what we can come up with behind our homes. This Ratburn style lots at the southeast portion of the maps looks great. Don't know why it couldn't have been brought forward, possibly put behind Rosy Bloom to circumvent the animosity that we end up feeling by having some of our promises taken away from us. There's 10 acres worth of green space on this that could have been done a little bit more creatively to offset the, you know, our feelings and you know, maybe smooth things over as a community, knowing that someone's actually working with us rather than just focusing in on the new homes coming in and only being concerned about them. So to get on track here, like I said, I object to the whole shebang essentially, and I'd love to see it redesigned and maybe reworked. But likely that's not going to be the case. So I'll fine tune it a little bit. So yeah, do definitely object to the rear yard variance from 25 to 20 feet. Again, we're under the assumption, when I bought my house new on that street, that we were going to be receiving some setbacks before the new community came in. Once that got pulled away from us, any new setback any closer than need be need not happen. And honestly, if it only happens in just the yards adjacent to our homes, you know, that's good enough for me. Whatever happens outside of those yards further down the roads to the new homes, like they had mentioned, they were more concerned about them having bigger homes, and they're going to be facing back-to-back new people, not necessarily us. Again, side streets with yards on the corners. The variant reducing 10 to 5 feet, as mentioned by our council, that yeah, you're going to have a lot of problems with snow removal, blind spots, etc. And my biggest concern right now, one thing that could be changed very easily in my mind's eye, is that green space at Depot and Rosy Bloom. I don't think that needs to be there. I highly object to that. Opening that roadway up just for the Rosy Bloom behind us, but a continuation will allow a more streamlined approach to getting down the main drags. It's not, I don't know if Landmark just assumes everybody's a commuter and wants to get out of the community as fast as they can down Old 59 so they get off to work inside the city or elsewhere outside of our community. But truth be told, being in our community is a great thing, and everybody wants to have access to all that great amenity. We have down Depot up to Lamoureux, and then down the main drag we have our convenience stores. We have lots of amenities just down that road alone nice easy access. So taking that away from people, forcing them down Rosy Bloom, you're gonna be adding not just the cars behind us. So if you continue Rosy Bloom, you're looking at about 28 or so new homes, add about 1.5 vehicles per person at least on average, and you're gonna funnel that all down Rosy Bloom. That's just our lane alone. Then you keep going across, you have another about 4 or 7 houses, depending if they wanna get down to that area. You're looking at, well, definitely over double the traffic that we're normally used to on our street. And the maps show that we're only R5. We're so condensed on our street, we barely fit 2 cars lengthwise in our driveways, resulting in the fact that any visitors that we have park on the street. We need stuff going on in our own yards, whether, moving a dirt pile, whatever the case may be, we're parking on the street. So adding, like I said, more than double, you're gonna be adding about, let's say double just to be on the safe side. You're gonna double up our traffic instantly, even if you just can consider the people, that Rosy Bloom Lane behind us is gonna start utilizing to get back onto the road. So yeah, definitely, that's my biggest objection right now. Other things, I don't expect you guys to be redesigned and redo anything just for my sake and benefit. But that one portion alone is not set in stone, and can be very easily taken out of the equation right now and not have to be dealt with. And they're worried about, they think they're controlling traffic and the speeds and everything going down there. The simple 3-way stop can do just the same amount of good as implementing, blocking off roads and turning it into a maze for people to roll down. And I think that's a mature driver, probably was gonna look for 59 to get out, full 59 to get out, maybe Lamoureux to go off into the country somewhere, or maybe with one of the schools. But, I've been young once, I've been a teenager behind the wheel, and I love taking on side roads and screwing around on them. And, like I said, doubling up at minimum that traffic with who knows who's gonna be behind us and their children and their teenagers and all that nonsense, that's gonna create a problem. Other concern, again, brought up by, our council, was, the access roads for construction. It is going to be, that should be hammered out and dealt with. Rosy Bloom will not accommodate, construction workers, construction vehicles, anything like that. There's no room for it. We just dealt with the MTS doing fiber lines and, sitting behind the vehicles there, trying to pull stuff just through our yards. That was a nightmare, and that's only for maybe 1 or 2 days. I can't imagine 3 to 5 years of constant construction going and hitting down behind us. I've been on our street right from the beginning. I lived with a dirt road in front of my house for 3 years before everything got finished, and then pavement was done. Anybody behind us living, that's in a home that's livable, living on a dirt road, you look for the first opportunity to hit pavement, and that's gonna be Rosy Bloom, depending on which way you guys, build out, whether it's gonna be from north to south or south to north. So with that, I object to the whole thing, but specifically to the points, that I made. And like I said, I hope that this is taken in constructive criticism. I wish our talks with Landmark had gone a little bit more constructive, and that they would have worked with us in our ideas, rather than just giving us quick answers and only considering themselves new owners, or new homeowners, and pushing this project forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Kessler?
One question, one statement. In your letter, you sent in, you had a comment regarding a security concern with the court.
Yeah. So, we had proposed, green space behind Rosy Bloom. Like I said, it was offered when we first moved on to the development. Obviously not happening, I understand that. But to remedy that, green space would have been nice behind Rosy Bloom. Landmark was quick to tell me that it was a security corridor concern. I see that happening, in my mind's eye, exactly what's happening with the Defoe if we decide to shut that off. There's gonna be a nice little security corridor backing onto, was it 4 or 5 houses are gonna be backing onto that green space, and then punching through to the streets behind. sounds like a security corridor to me.
Okay, and then, just for your info, there was a lot of confusion with the easement that everybody thought was in the back of your property, which was actually on your property. I did get a copy of the development agreement for Rosie Bloom, and that easement is actually to move to the south.
Okay.
So that drainage easement will be no longer on your property, it'll be on the south lots directly behind you.
Okay, so does that mean if they're gonna be building, or at,
There'll be a drainage easement on the south properties of your place.
so they're gonna be taking on the water to get out the Walk Pond?
I just found that out today.
All right.
So, I was,
I knew I had something had to give with that, cause like even this year with the heavy rainfall and snow that we've gotten, I think it was still ended June, you walk in the back, you know, it's like standing on a sponge. Yeah.
that wasn't the only place in town like that.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't.
My yard would, attest to that. That's it for now.
Thank you. Anything else from council?
Yeah, I have a question, and I don't remember seeing a plan before this one, the full development plan. But in hearing your concerns, it sounds like you've seen other plans prior, and you've had discussions with them, and it's gone back and forth. There has not been any, you're saying they haven't addressed any of your concerns? Or have some of them been addressed, or, I'm just curious to see if that relationship is.
Yeah, any concerns that they were met with, well, just deal with it, we're doing this, like, we got an answer for everything, anything you're presenting, we're not gonna work with you. This plan is the latest, I think there's been 3 others proposed during the 6-month timeframe, during our 3 meetings, I think, where we had community engagement. I even emailed them one back and said, here, put the green space there, you got 10 acres worth to throw around. All you're concerned about is the guys in the new homes. What about people already paying their taxes and living here? They won't play, they didn't even play nice to any degree. It was their way, their design. When we told them about traffic and how our street is already over congested, we were told to get out and walk. Forget the cars, just get out and walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, just straight up nonsense, like,
Walk your kids to school.
Okay, one person at a time, please.
yeah. So, we've met, it's like I said, it's one thing to be talked to, it's another thing to be talked with, so we can develop and actually grow as a community with all this new development happening. But unfortunately, we got talked to, this is what's happening, live with it, deal with it. If we got an answer for everything, you're not gonna get any kind of wiggle room, we're not gonna talk to you about it, we're not gonna have any constructive conversations to try to mediate, to try to, you know, get everybody on the same page. And we were just told this is happening and that's it.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Fritz. Thank you. Just, so council's aware too, this is a public hearing for what's on the agenda, not to discuss what's going on between the applicant and residents, so just for next time. Okay, anyone else in person wishing to speak against? Come forward. Oh, sorry, before we continue, Mr. Pestic, you also have a letter here of objection. Council has all had the opportunity to review it, so we've seen it. Did you still want us to read it out loud?
You can, if you like.
Well, for the essence of time, I don't want to, but if you want us to, we will.
Read it.
Okay,
They wanna read it, let's read it.
I'll read it, okay. Okay, we'll read it after, you can come forward and speak.
So my name is Shailene Hawthorne, I live at 21169 Lamoureux. Just for the record though, I'm just gonna be talking on behalf of Celeste, who's 265 Rosie Bloom. She didn't get a chance to send in the email, not the greatest public speaker, but she is in attendance here. So if you're okay with that, I just wanted to give a couple points. So the first one is the concerns of connectivity of green space and these noted sidewalks. In the presentation, they changed the terms to active transportation, but I just want to know what they're exactly connecting to. I know Landmark is aware that there aren't very many sidewalks in Ile-des-Shane, but they're putting it forward as if they're connecting to something that's already there, that this is gonna be a huge benefit. And the other thing with this green space is, where do people park when they wanna access this village square or the other green space? Is there allotted areas, like, in these residential roads, so that we don't get that backup? With the green, the village square, sorry, we'll reference it as that, with it being potentially a one-way, where would be the closest place to park? How are we gonna safely get there? What will be in that green space? The next thing is to disagree with the variance, changes in setbacks, the side yard allowances, specifically, as you had mentioned, about snow removal. I know when you start getting houses closer, to the roads, where do we push the snow to? There's also concern about the closure and the traffic flow, again, down Rosy Bloom, which we keep calling like funnel down Rosy Bloom, with the potential closure of Dufault. Please note that a lot of these concerns come from parking, the large population of children that reside on that road, as well as the road has also had concerns with emergency vehicles, hydro, that type of stuff. It's a very, very condensed, like very jam-packed road, even on a good day when everybody should be at work. And the last thing is just more of a posed question, is today in the presentation by Landmark, it was mentioned that the green space will potentially have a playground. Just wanted to get some clarification on who will fund this. Is this a municipal thing? Is this down the road? Will this be something that will go up first? Like, where does this fall? Because I know a lot of people in town are really big on parks, that safe green space, so just wanted to note that as well. And that's, again, just written on behalf of Celeste, but I know I also have stuff on file for myself as well, so.
So, I'll just jump on that quickly. So you are a resident of Taché, so I am gonna make the decision for the essence of time. I'm not gonna read out your letter out loud, but council does have it for review and has reviewed it. But you're more than welcome to speak on that letter right now if you'd like.
Sure, I have nothing, like, if everybody's had a chance to review it. I'm not fully opposed to the development and to growth and stuff, and as it says in the letter, like, I have a long-standing history in this town. Just wanna make sure what goes here fits here, right? And I know everybody has their different views on, side-by-side duplexes, single family, that stuff. It's just cramming as much as we can in is the concern, right? Like, a lot of the community wants green space, which they have, in their presentation. But that it fits, that it's welcomed, and that all the concerns, I've spoke with tons of community members, actually made that kind of like my own thing to do on the side, to kind of see where people were at. And as I noted in that letter, that there are concerns, and I just hope that those things come into consideration. So I won't plot further on it, you guys have read it, so, and yes, I am a resident of Taché, but I'm very passionate about Ile-des-Chênes, and I really put that in there.
We appreciate it.
But I see some familiar faces, nice to see you again, gentlemen. So,
Council, do you have any questions for Mrs. Hanford?
Hawthorne.
Sorry, Hawthorne.
Very 10 years.
What is this Hanford? Yeah, sorry.
It's all good, it's okay.
Mrs. Hawthorne, do you have any questions?
Thank you.
No, I'm good, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I appreciate your time.
Awesome, okay.
Is there anyone else in person wishing to speak again?
No, not so much against, but some reservations. Jeff, okay.
Name, please.
My name's Rene Trudeau,
Address.
237 Lemon Road.
Thank you.
And so I want to, even though it doesn't concern me, because I don't live on Rosy Bloom, I can see Rosy Bloom from the back of my property. I do agree that that street was not designed to funnel more traffic through. I can see the appeal in having that greenway. It's just not practical for the 26 odd houses, plus the additional 18 houses that is assumed, that traffic will come back. I've been down the street, walking to friends' places, and as a dead-end street, it's already too busy. Stephen's point, I agree with him. I wouldn't go so far as to say that I disagree with the entire project. No, I'm actually very much in favor with this project. That greenway where Dufault is cut off is cute, but it's not very practical. So I will have, being on Lamoureux at the very end, myself and my neighbors behind I'll have 3 or 4 new neighbors, they'll have 7 or 8 new neighbors, and I've voiced my concern, and I think that's more for the council to impose potentially on the developers to have a developer, you know, what we see regularly when we go to Sage Creek, large fences. They're often on a berm. We don't need a berm necessarily because it's not a noise issue, but a fence, uniforms, running the length of the property from Lamoureux to Dufault would be greatly appreciated. Sorry to assume that I'm speaking for you, but I think that would be very much appreciated by Monsieur, Madame Bonneau, as well as the family. And the last point is, I'm just a little disappointed in the proposed sizes of the lots for the duplexes or the 2-family homes as they're described. They seem entirely too small for a small town like Île-des-Chênes, a small but growing town. I get that it's growing. For the density, I get that it's good in terms of the amount of frontage that they have. They'll pay less taxes. But the number of new homes, I think it was 115 new single-family homes, about 120 new duplexes or individual units on duplex. And so if I was a developer, the profit motive would obviously be there, but in terms of practicality and the market, I don't see there being more people wanting to buy a duplex than there would be buying a single-family home. So I don't oppose to the area being, put aside for duplexes, but I think those lots should be increased in size. So the RG5, I think is, I get that it's just a minimum, that the minimum, or a minimum of 5,000 square feet, but 5,000 square feet is too small in my opinion.
Appreciate it.
My 2 cents.
Any questions from council? No? Thank you very much. Final call, anyone else in person wishing to speak again? Yeah.
Can I just add something?
Yeah.
I just wanted to make mention again, in terms of the roads and the closure of Dufault. As you know, I'm a paramedic, I work out here in Southern. With the funneling through and the S-curves and everything like that, from our standpoint, it may take a little bit longer and it's a nice flow of traffic, but in an emergency, things like that are really frustrating from the emergency services standpoint. So I just always hope that in the back of people's minds, when you're thinking of deterring traffic and that type of stuff, that you always think of, if it's your emergency, you want the fastest route there. Not saying that this is 100% this development, but with the cutoff of Dufault there, potentially can flow an ambulance all the way around. And it's just something to keep in the back of your mind. So it's just brought to my attention.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, is there anyone online or on the phone wishing to speak against? We'll start with on the phone. Is there anyone on the phone wishing to speak against? Anyone online wishing to speak against? Okay, go ahead, Matt, sorry.
Evening, everyone. I have a few questions in regards to, number one, the traffic impact study. There was mention in regards to about 4 to 5 vehicles per minute within the peak hours. Has there any data in regards to non-peak hours? Because if you calculate that, that's about 300 cars an hour on 5, and maybe more along the lines of 250 cars on 4. Is there any data on non-peak hours?
Okay, we'll make comment to that after at the end with the rebuttal time for the developer.
Okay, and the reason why it's brought up is I'm not seeing a lot of, I'm still thinking about the little ones walking to school and the town itself having very few sidewalks in regards to get to Gabriel-Roy School, walking down Dufault, walking down Lamoureux, those streets. and the safety issues in regards to all that with that many vehicles moving around. I know we've talked about 20% maybe hitting Dufault and Lamoureux. Well, that's still about 60 cars in an hour. If we're getting closer to school hours, which is pretty much closer to the peak time, that can be a very important safety issue. I'm going to bring forward another comment in regards to someone had mentioned earlier about the fit. I think going from 8,000 to 5,000, we're taking away a lot of the fit of this town and what it has to offer, and bringing up a lot more issues in regards to no sidewalks, no place to park, snow removal, and we can just keep going on and all that. So those are my main concerns right now, that I think going down to R5 is not in favor, is not a good idea for what the town has to offer, what the town is as itself.
Hey, Matt, I just wanted to, two things. I just need your address for the record.
284 Dufault Drive.
Did you get that right? Okay, and then, are you objecting to the whole plan, or is there certain parts, like you just wanted to make comment, or is there an official objection there?
Well, there's an objection to going from R8 to R5. That's the big one for me.
Okay, we just need it for the official info.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone online wishing to object, make statement during? Okay, anything received against?
Yes. I've got 8 letters, of which council all have a copy of, and I'll read them out loud. The first one is from Samantha Fifi at 324 Rosie Bloom. I am a resident on Rosie Bloom and would like to be opposed to the ending of Dufault at Rosie Bloom. Instead, I would like to present that it be extended only to the next public road being built, not to make any Rosie Bloom congested with traffic. We have 28 children on our street and already see issues with the amount of parked cars, etc. So to double or more of the flow would present serious concerns. Creating an additional entrance to the development would help the parents on our street feel safer for their children when they are out biking and playing hockey, etc. I am not opposed to the new development, but do hope they remember that we are a small town and would like to keep that feel. It is the reason why we moved here. Number 2, I guess backed by popular request, a letter from Stephen Pesnick. So I'll read that out. After reading the notice in full regarding the Ile-des-Chênes South development, I am emailing you with my official objections regarding the R8 parcels 1 through 11 and the adjacent green space that is proposed to block off Dufault at Rosie Bloom. The proposed setbacks changes from 25 to 20 feet and for the R8 parcels. I disagree with this variance. It's bad enough Rosie Bloom's developer caveats are now ignored, and we find our new neighbors building up to our fences. Maximum distance should be given to the new builds on the lots 1 through 11. The green space and ending Dufault at Rosie Bloom is a bad idea, to put it bluntly. I'm sure case studies are cute, but in real life, our small condensed street, barely 2 cars width, will not accommodate added traffic from the new streets behind us. Given the new developments and street behind us, an access point to Dufault would only benefit everyone. Also, this green space looks like it's endorsing a safety concern, as mentioned by landmark planning, as it creates a corridor. There is plenty of room to construct, well, at least in the blurry proposed plans, that an additional R5 can be constructed on Rosie Bloom and Dufault, continuing onto the new street developing behind the street. The proposed minimum street side yards for all corner lots from 10 feet to 5 feet is another concern. With the amount of snow we see in any given winter season, corners propose blind spots at the best of times and during harsh conditions. Utilizing the space around corners to provide maximum viewing angles is highly recommended. It keeps safety in mind during construction and not an afterthought. And lastly, as seen in St. Adolphe concerns, the streets being proposed for construction access has that been approved? It was mentioned during landmark planning's last meeting, Rosie Bloom will not accommodate construction vehicles or workers trying to utilize the street for access. The dead ends seen on Rosie Bloom should remain in place until concrete is poured to finalize the connecting streets. Dirt, mud, and additional traffic is a recipe for disaster, accidents, and a deterioration of our street. A clear visible example is La Mourure and the apartment blocks that La Mourure is a prime example at the apartment buildings which have gone unchecked and worked on since the beginning of the 2022 summer. I hope this is received with a critical eye and not dollar signs for the municipality. After plenty of planning meetings with landmark planning and design, an answer was given for the construction we had, which only benefited the developer. Constructive criticism and alternative solutions should be considered for everything raised in this email instead of a defensive comment that only suits the developer's plans to move forward with hiccups. We look forward to seeing what is presented and how you address your concerns and what will ultimately unfold for our tiny street and our little community. Stephen and Jessica. 3 from Joël Lacan from 1220 Arnold Road. This is the last thing I want for our community further east. I have a great location at the edge of town, and all this development means more cookie cutter houses and condos and multi-living homes bring more city folk and ruin a small town feel. Ile des Chênes already has too many condos and multi-units homes. The last thing we need is this development. I am very against this proposed development. Please consider the cons this will do to our great town. From David Steg, 279 Full. I'm all for development in this community, but the proposal for the 234 homes in South Ile des Chênes needs some changes. I know money and greed are rampant in life, but someone has to change this proposal. Why are the lots so small with the setbacks and lot sizes not enough room to park one's vehicles, never mind guests? No fences to protect the current residents, no plans for 55 plus. Cutting off roads, full drive, ever try parking a camper or a boat? Take a look at Grand Point Meadows. There are large lots that attract larger houses and still young families. Families need room for their children, still a fair tax for the municipality. This future development is stuck in the 60s or 70s with no chance of proper growth. Many changes are required for this to proceed. This proposal is not progress. In case you ever wondered, I have lived in this community for 60 years and on Zufo for the past 50 years. Shailene, sorry, but the mayor overrides me, so I will not read your letter. Mac
Can I just ask why though?
Just for essence of time, we still have a full meeting after this, and you're also a Taché resident, so I would rather spend our tax dollar on the ratepayer of Rickshot instead of the ratepayer of Taché. Thank you.
Okay, but I am affected by this.
Right now, we're not speaking to the public right now. This is for the reading, so thank you.
Can us read it on my behalf?
Right now, we are reading. Thank you.
Number 6, Mark Roy, 284 Full. As a resident of Ile des Chênes, I would like to share my concerns and objections in regards to the amendment of the Rickshot zoning bylaw 9/2019 for bylaw 12-2022. Changing the zone from an RG8 to an RG5 is not supported by myself and my family. Ile des Chênes is known for being a small community with nice-sized lots where families can enjoy a gathering in their backyards, a garden to feed their families, a small play structure for their children to play on, etc. Reducing the size of lots will only work against the gathering of people and move everyone onto public streets and remove the feel and aspect of living in a small town. This will also increase the risk of accidents and injury to young children playing on the streets and using these to move around the development and the town. On top of all of this, the municipality has to consider snow removal, parking, access for ambulance and fire trucks as a factor in this decision. More houses also bring more traffic and of course more issues. Again, we're opposed to this request of the amendment. From 428 Rosie Bloom, 2 letters, one from Janessa Roy and one from Chris Mazur. From Chris Mazur, hello, I would like to file an objection for the 234 house project south of Ile de Chêne. I currently live at 428 Rosie Bloom and have done so for the past 6 years. When we bought, we were told nothing would be built behind us for 20 years as we're our neighbors. The infrastructure does not support the additional houses, it barely supports the existing community. We have more power outages than I have experienced elsewhere. The internet is basically dial-up, and the schools need to be addressed. I also have a question how this got rezoned so quickly, easily. My experience has shown that to get anything rezoned, it takes a great deal of time and negotiation. And from Janessa, when we purchased the property 6 years ago, we were promised there was no building behind us for a minimum of 20 years. Because of this, we purchased, but now are looking elsewhere due to all the new buildings that will soon take place behind us. Definitely curious, are we now getting a new immersion school? I have 3 daughters attending, and there's definitely a need for a new building now, never mind after this build. And those are the 8 letters we have received.
Thank you very much. I'll give the developer or Landmark Planning time now if they wanted to enter their rebuttal.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and thank you to everybody who participated in the civic process today. We value that, notwithstanding, we heard objections. We appreciate very much what people say, and I know there's some sentiment in terms of what was presented earlier that we weren't listening. I can assure you we were listening. One of the things that we say at the beginning of every one of our meetings is we may not agree in the end. We do want to listen. We do want to take measures to address issues that are raised, not requests that are made, and that can sometimes be understood in a different light. So I will include some confirmation of responses to the topics that were provided. In terms of traffic, again, I introduced the traffic topic, and I introduced the road pattern as the primary way of mitigating concerns about where people will go. And I know we were listening and hearing what council was hearing in terms of people. There are some people who attended who don't believe that traffic pattern, the road pattern that we presented, would actually result in a reduction. And we have done this before, and not that I've taken a superior position, but we do have experience in road layouts who rely on the best in the business in terms of transportation planning and analysis. And our number one objective, because we know it's in everybody's best interest, including ours as planners and Terracons as developers, to do your best to not create additional traffic for people and additional traffic flow. So we are really confident about that road pattern. So if someone should suggest a different road pattern, it gets hard for us to then just say, okay, we'll do that, just, because that would make that particular stakeholder happier or would take away their concern. So it can be challenging when you're presenting something that others don't believe will work. We're quite confident about it. There was an idea about, that was suggested tonight about connecting that northerly, connecting what we show as the extension of Rosie Bloom west to Old 59. We think that from a traffic analysis perspective is a bad idea. We think that'll become a cheater road into the subdivision. Everything's designed to come in south, further south than the existing development into that collector system. And so we think that would actually be a mistake. And so we wouldn't recommend going with that idea. There was additional concern raised about construction traffic. The idea of concern about people maybe having to drive on mud roads, and some empathy raised for future residents. That isn't how Terracon does their developments, and that wouldn't be the case here. Nobody gets an occupancy permit in their home until there's paved roads. So the roads will all be paved before anyone is taking occupancy in those homes. And then similarly for construction traffic, sometimes you get developers or builders who are inexperienced, or maybe they're not, don't have course certified trades. Terracon does. They're quite conscientious. They've got the best trades and certified ones. So there's never a good time for construction. And is the key is having a good construction plan, good communication plan, and contractors who know what they're doing. A fair bit of concern from those, from a few, I guess, representatives or people who live on Rosy Bloom. And again, we are empathetic to a new situation. Nobody, many people don't anticipate ever having someone beside them if they buy a home that's looking out on a farmyard. And I don't want to make anyone feel bad, but sometimes they're told, and we've heard it a lot of times, realtors saying nothing will be built here. So empathetic with the concern and the surprise, perhaps, but it is the case that we can't always do exactly what a neighbor wants to see there or hopes to see there. So the idea of putting a park in that narrow space, it's true. We did say that that would create a safety concern. We believe that would create a safety concern. Crime prevention through environmental design, our SEPT head principle is to definitely not do that. So we can't, in good conscience, as good planners, lay out the plan the way was suggested by at least one participant. What we can do, and what we have done for Rosy Bloom that does respond to concerns raised, there's a number, and I mentioned it before, the land use is the number one thing that we can do. We don't propose commercial, industrial, multifamily, two-family. None of those are proposed next to an existing single-family home. We propose single-family next to single-family. We propose lots that are bigger than the existing lots, which we think makes a lot of sense. We can resolve their existing drainage concerns. We have nothing to do with it, but the proposal will result in a fix of their drainage concerns because of that easement condition that Councilor Pelletier mentioned. The drainage will have to be accommodated on the proposed site, not on the neighbor's site. So that's the third thing. I mentioned the road pattern. I know some Rosy Bloom residents don't feel that is a benefit. We do. So for us, that is a response, is to create a road pattern that does cut off traffic, that doesn't encourage traffic up Rosy Bloom, is the fourth thing. And lastly, there was some talk about a fence. These discussions often happen later, once land use approvals are granted, when you get to interdevelopment agreement. You know, Councilor appreciates this, but maybe folks in the chambers don't. But there's later stages, as I mentioned too. We can certainly talk about a fence as well, built at the developer's cost, if that's seen as a benefit. So a whole list of responses and careful listening, we would say on our part, and understanding that we may not make everybody happy. Next on my list is sidewalk connections, and I did mention, you know, the idea of having a lot of pathways and sidewalks. We think that's great planning. That previously, you know, not most towns didn't have these, and we did acknowledge there are leading to places where the pathways don't exist currently. That's called spade to spade. We know that the pathways in the whole neighborhood, while valuable in the neighborhood, lead to non-pathways. So that's where I had offered at later stages, you know, would certainly even help in the planning of anything off-site. And RM is okay to, or would certainly, it would be open to negotiate with Terracon on any off-site costs you see fit. So we certainly can't create or resolve the off-site problem. We can only create good pathways on-site. There was a question about parking around the square. We did calculations based on dimension plans, just well weighting, we estimate about 50 to 60 parking spaces along that park. So we think more than ample around that square. There was a mention about playground. Again, this to us would fall into the category of later discussion. Usually you don't, through a zoning process, you're not usually at that level. What kind of amenity would be in the park? You're just deciding on the layout. So I know Terracon would be open to discussing the kinds of amenities that could go in these parks. And then a pretty substantial theme on RG5, which is a density question. We still feel that it is an appropriate density. I know there was a comment, and I'd say with respect that, you know, that we were reverting to the 60s or 70s. Reverting to the 60s or 70s would be large, you know, big lots when land is cheaper, when infrastructure was cheaper even for RMs, not just for the developer. We do see new neighborhoods as a need for everybody. There's talk about greed, which is an unfortunate use of the term in this setting. But that isn't what it's about. Of course, Terracon will make profit like anyone who goes to work gets paid. We do want to plan a good community with the RM, work with the RM to create a really excellent community. In the current realities of both the market and the economics, and in terms of what people can afford, and we're not talking about cheap housing, we're talking about affordable housing. These are the types of densities and the range of products that you need in the neighborhood. So we're really confident about the RG5. You have existing RG5, and there may be some issue with the way it was done, perhaps. We don't have an issue with that, but we think it's a perfectly viable zoning category, and it goes very well with the RG8, and there's plenty of RG8, especially against the existing homes to the north. So we think, again, it's a factor of listening to concerns about adjacent uses. So with that, I'll put it back to council for questions. If there are questions that I can't answer, if it's okay, I'll defer to council.
I'll open up for council now. Council, do you have final questions?
No, thank you, Jeff.
I thought Councilor Blanche had a question about snow removal. Is that still?
No, we talked about that,
Okay,
yeah, on the corner lot, yeah.
Councilor Belcher?
Few, on the public roads, east-west, the main feeder going into the square, and then the one feeding into the multi-family section, those are both coming off of Old 59.
Yes,
And then the public lane behind, Block 4.
that will connect as well.
Okay. Maybe fences later. On the feeder streets, what, do we envision as, and that'll be, the smaller of the public roads, on the multifamily, just to talk back to the snow removal on those corner lots, what's the road easement on those, do we know what that might be?
I love the talk. Yeah, go ahead. Typically on a typical right of way, they're 20 meters wide. The pavement itself would be 7.5, which would leave 6.25 on either side. That's about 20 feet for your center boulevard. That east-west corridor is quite substantially larger at, I think it's 30 feet. I don't have it 30 meters in front of me. So a much larger boulevard that also allows for sidewalks and apple snow storage.
The side yard setbacks we're talking about are not the snow storage area. I think Donovan touched on it. It's important to remember that 5-yard side yard is not part of the right of way. That's private, that's on the private property.
There's still 20 feet on this corner side.
When we're looking at a zoning map,
Yeah.
that's lost, right?
Yeah.
So even for the residents, it's like, you're gonna be right on the street, because they don't see the roads, you know, like, not to get too far in the weeds, but a rendering showing the streets on a map like this would probably help.
I understand the question.
Especially even sidewalks and things like that, that would help people visualize, because right now it's just the road, the house, and you're asking for 4 feet on the corner.
Right.
So
It's hard to visualize it.
yeah.
Understood.
You asked for blanket 4 feet side yard. Is that required on our RG8s?
Yeah.
The size of the product is like, we work with a group of builders, so there's some existing size of product. So that's why we're trying to do it as a blanket instead of having it come as individual variances. So you'd have 1 year or 5 year maybe in any given meeting, if we were to do it as a blanket. So we could say yes on this one, no on that one, yes on that one, but it's far easier for everybody if we do it as a blanket. And they won't all end up as 4-foot side yards. But they could. Yeah, but they could.
Okay, so that's tight. It's 4 feet, you throw an AC unit on the side of the house. I'd have a hard time squeezing through that. All right, so I know it's only a foot difference, but
That's been making comments about your size.
I referred to if I was trying to carry a cooler to the backyard, it would be tight. it's tight, so if we're talking 20% in those RG8s and the big RG5s, I'm fully okay with that, but to say that every place is gonna end up being 4 foot on both sides of their house is.
Yeah, we'll yield to you. I mean, we're okay with it on the RGAs, but you will have the variance applications coming forward. We think, you'll see in hindsight, from our experience in other jurisdictions, that it's better to do it as a blanket on the front end than to do them individually, because we don't do the building. We sell the builders and they bring their product, and they position air conditioners with all that stuff in mind, and that's what they're looking for, so. On the R8s, I think, if you're more comfortable with doing it the other way, I think in hindsight, you will say, oh yeah, now we get it, but,
One thing I will add is that we sell to members of the Home Builders Association. They're all quality home builders. They're very reputable. We don't create the market. I like to say we chase the market, and we sort of defer to them on what is actually a product that sells. So we have to defer to that expertise, and a lot of that discussion on drives down to affordability. And really, again, what Justin is saying is, we're trying to create this clean slate so that they have that product that they can build. That's really where we're going, if we can create that sort of uniformity there.
Less customization than that.
Yeah. No, fair enough. And I drove through your West St. Paul development again this week, and it looks great. I've got no concerns with how you guys do things on that end.
Just type for the cooler.
Yeah, just type for the cooler.
I could add on there, just briefly, if I could, it is also, I know when councils consider variances, often they're in existing situations. So, you have one owner and then you have existing owners right beside you, and you talk about variances, you get concerned for the neighbors and how that is. If it's a new scenario, everyone's buying the thing the way they get it. So on that complaint side, or that potential impact to an existing person isn't there, because everyone's buying the product, they know what the product is, they see it. And so then it goes to functionality, the cooler, and walking by and so forth. And as you've seen, they can be quite functional, and but then also responsible in terms of efficiency.
Emergency services have issues with 4 feet, Mr. Sue?
Not aware of that.
There was some to stop me.
May not be my place, but if I may ask a hard question. On the variations, you say you need the variations to meet the package. Why wasn't the subdivision considered and the lot lines considered to fit the package in the first place instead of coming to council with variations?
That's a good question, and not a difficult one, Mr. CEO.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, I didn't say we needed the variance to fit the package. I said that it comes as a package, that the whole thing is designed as a package, transparently with the side yard noted for the reasons you're pressing us on, and we're happy to provide. We think it is a package, not that, please give us this variance so the package will work. So it is a subtle difference, but it's an important one, because we feel the package makes a lot of sense for the reasons that we're responding to Councilor Pelletier with. So, it's not a later kind of oops or sliding it in. We think this makes really good sense from a planning and design perspective.
Okay, anything else from council?
I just have I don't want to beat it to death, just about you talk about the package, you talk about what they're building now. We always talk about affordability, not cheap housing, but affordability. This to me sounds like they just want to build bigger houses, which to me is the opposite of affordability. So it's not sitting right with me.
Fair, yeah, there are tensions, and it would be better if it was black and white, but there's a whole lot of variables here when we talk about affordability, and we could probably say, for now we're talking about affordability, and what goes into affordability goes all the way down to how that house is built. The biggest level is the neighborhood level. From an affordability perspective, if, you can be really efficient time after time after time again, then you get greater affordability. So, when you talk about a house being sort of squeezed in, it's very relative. So, you can have a wider lot and squeeze a bigger house in, you can have a smaller lot and fit the house in. It really depends on your perspective in terms of what feel, like, I'm not sure how I can get to it not feeling, right. But I am confident that that's excess space, in the side yard that's not really needed for anything. And I mentioned in my, presentation, and it might have seemed a bit of a stretch perhaps, but when you have that bigger space, you know what happens beside houses and in between houses. It's seen as bonus space. It's not usable for recreation or for leisure. It ends up being used for storage. And so we don't think that's a good.
Councillor Pelkey, do you have anything to add?
I'm good, actually. Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor.
Due to the essence, time municipal act does ask us to close at 10 p.m., so we do have a long agenda ahead of us, so I will close the public hearing at 9:01 p.m. Do I have a mover? Councillor Clayton, second. Councillor Pelche. Sorry.
Okay, where are we moving towards?
We are going into item, hold on, sorry, subdivision, yes.
Excuse me, council,
Yes.
I just had a comment.
I did close the public hearing, but because you didn't speak, I will let you make one comment.
Thank you, this will be very quick.
Okay.
Do I need to approve for
You do.
comment of encouragement?
Yeah, I do have to open the public hearing again. Can I get a mover?
Okay.
Councillor Pelche, second. Councillor Mamchuk.
Okay. Good evening, council, good evening, guests. On behalf of our father, Laurent Trudeau, my name is Laurier, son, and my brother JC at that. This is more of a comment of encouragement. This is a development that we are not taking lightly. We acknowledge that we have a municipality that has vision and are looking towards the future. It is very important for us to surround ourselves with professionals, guys that are experts, guys that have experience and vision also. I'd like to send a endorsement, a thank you to Terracon for that exact position on this project. And also like to say a thank you to Landmark Planning for facilitating this process. We pride ourselves on keeping low key, as our father wants, and we leave the experts do what they do. So thank you for taking this time tonight, and thank you again to the professionals.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a mover? Councillor Mamchuk, second by Councillor Pelche. Close at 9:03 p.m. again. Yes, we'll move on to the subdivisions, which is 5.4.2. Yeah.
5.4.1.
Would you rather take that?
That's fine. So 5.4.1?
Yes, sorry.
And sorry, mover and seconder?
Was, Councillor Clayton, second by Councillor Mamchuk. No, sorry, it was Councillor Pelche, moved by Councillor Mamchuk.
Okay, so the resolution to debate is therefore be resolved that council approves subdivision file 4165-22-8176, subject to the following conditions: that the applicant must enter into a development agreement with the municipality. 2, that blocks 1 through 9, 11, 13, and 14 must be rezoned from our residential general 8,000 to residential general 5,000. 3, that block 15 must be rezoned from agricultural limited to residential general 5,000. 4, despite the lot area requirements of RG5 residential general zone, proposed blocks, block 11, lots 1 through 9, lots 12 through 22 are required to remain at a minimum 6,499 square feet, and lots 10 and 11 must remain at 9,124 square feet and 7,761 square feet respectively. 5 public reserve areas must be rezoned from RG8 to Parks and Recreation. 6, that lot sizes do not comply with the appropriate RG5 and RG8 zones require minor variations. And 7, that the applicant must obtain approved conditional use orders for all proposed two-family and multifamily dwellings.
Thank you. We'll open up the council debate. Council, anything to add?
I'm just trying to look at the blocks here.
Sorry, take your time.
Yeah.
This is a big list.
Condition number 4 for council's information on proposed lot 11, that's the one that runs along Denwood and then back down through Arnold Road. Those lots are listed from 1 to 22.
Councilor Blanche, you doing that?
No, there was talk from why are we going to RG5, can we not keep them at RG8? So, I don't know if you want to entertain that, or...
Do you want to entertain that? Your council, you can make that decision.
I'm hearing both sides of the stories, and I can understand both sides of the stories, but it's not a black and white for me right now, I'll be honest.
No, I appreciate that. Councilor Clayton?
You know, I guess for starters, I appreciate everyone that's come up and share their perspective. I think there's some truth to having a development that's palatable to the homeowners, potential homeowners, you know. I think it's great to think that we were gonna have potentially a state development all over the place, but I don't think it's a good fit for everyone. So I just, you know, but what we're talking about here is just the you know, what's in front of us. So I don't actually have an issue with right now with the way it's proposed.
Thank you. Councilor Manshop, do you have any comment?
The way demographics are, some people like larger homes and lots like smaller ones, but the older generation like to keep it small. I can talk from my experience, smaller the better.
Thank you. Councilor Pelcher?
I'm good as is. There's a lot of RG5s that would fall to an RG65 on these that we don't have. We did put some safeguards in to make sure that some of our bigger lots on that Lamoureux side are kept large. Like most people, when I first looked at this and saw the lines, I was like, I won't say that out loud here, but a little concerned. But when you look at the numbers of buildings, we're adding 112 single units. And then there's really 60 units, 60 other houses going in. They just happen to have a separating wall between them. So we're looking at 172 new buildings in Île-des-Chênes. The density, I am okay with. We need the mix from a planning perspective. Not everybody wants to cut 0.3 of an acre of grass. I struggle some days wanting to go outside and do that myself. I think this is a pretty good mix here. Yeah, as far as the subdivision right now, I'm good as is, yeah.
Okay. Okay, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Moving on to 5.4.2. Mr. Steele, is that what you like us to jump to?
Correct.
Go ahead.
5.4.2.1 is the second reading regarding the zoning bylaw. So be it resolved that council gives second reading to bylaw 12-2022, being a bylaw to amend the RMR zoning bylaw 9-2019. Though this is part of the condition of the subdivision approval, the application, again, was regarding RG8s and RG5s, and Parks and Rec. You all have that map, so may continue the debate.
Thank you. I'll open up for council debate again. Councilor Clayton moved and Councilor Boulanger seconded it.
Thank you.
Correct?
We'll replay the tape.
Thanks. To open up for council debate. Anything to add?
This was rezoning part 2, right?
Yep.
No.
Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll go to 5.4.2.2, bylaw 12-2022, third reading. Do I have a mover? Councilor Knapsack, second by Councilor Pache.
Okay, we did receive objections, however, in my opinion, not enough objectors to warrant a pause on third reading and the need to go through municipal board. According to the Planning Act, at least 25 objectors or more, or 50% of the affected 100-meter landowners. And from what I gathered from the objections heard tonight, I would recommend to proceed to third reading.
Just, do you have a quick count on the total objections?
I have 8 there.
Just for my thoughts.
It would be, some are concerned, so I would say about 13.
13, and you said there's 88 homes that would be affected with the
88, 51 homes with 83 owners.
That's all I want to know. Thank you. Okay, I'll open up the council debate. Nothing? Comment here? Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Do you want us to jump to 5.4.3? Mr. Steele?
That is next on the
Thank you.
docket.
C12-2022, landmark planning, Terracon IMC development. Do I have a mover? Councilor Clayton, second by Councilor Boulanger.
Therefore, be resolved that conditional use application C12-2022 is approved subject to the following conditions. That applicants obtain a building permit from the municipal office for each building. The applicant shall provide copies of stamped and engineered plans. 3, parking shall comply with the municipal zoning bylaw 9-2019, section 321. 4, any outdoor lighting must be located, arranged, and shielded so that no light is directed at any neighboring property or roadway. 5, my apologies. 5, applicant shall provide a drainage plan prepared by engineer certified, and a surveyor drainage shall not affect adjacent property. 6, that the applicant shall provide certified engineered building location certificates for each building. 7, that the applicant ensures that all proposed construction conforms to Manitoba building codes, fire codes, health standards, labor laws, and any other municipal and or provincial permits and approvals as may be required. 8, the applicant shall obtain all required permits and approvals from Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure. 9, that the signage shall comply with the municipal zoning bylaw, section 11. And 10, the applicant will provide signed confirmation letter accepting the terms of the order, and there may be site audits conducted to ensure compliance, and any non-compliance issue may be caused to revoke the conditional use at any time.
Okay, we'll open up for council debate. Council, is there anything to add on this one?
Not here.
Councilor Pelletier? No. No. Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. 5.4.4, B 2022 Terracon IDC development. Do I have a mover? Councilor Manchuk, second. Councilor Boulanger.
This is in regarding to the variations requested. Therefore, be it resolved that variation application V 2022 to vary the following items. Minimum front yard setbacks for all single-family lots from 30 feet to 20 feet. 2, minimum rear yard setbacks for all proposed multifamily and RG8 single-family lots from 25 to 20. 3, minimum side yards for all lots from 5 feet to 4 feet. 4, minimum side yards for all proposed lots without a lane at the rear of the site from 10 feet to 4 feet. And 5, minimum street side yards for all corner lots from 10 feet to 5 feet. Be approved with the following conditions: that the subdivision be approved, that bylaw 12 regarding the rezoning must be approved, and no further variations will be allowed. Yes.
Open up for council comments, debates. Council, would like to start? Councilor Boulanger.
I still have a problem with corner lots, so, that's where I stand on that. I'd like to see that change from 10 to 5 feet to 10 to 8 feet at minimum.
10 to 8 feet at minimum for corner lots. How does the rest of council feel about that? Councilor Clayton?
Do we have a precedence right now for what was there in the past? A limit?
We do have an example for the Churon Creek development, whereby council did vary the 10 feet to 8 feet.
Okay. Councilor Minister? Would you like to see the change, or are you comfortable with that? I just have a quick peek again at which, sure, one goes back to.
As Councillor Pelletier is contemplating a thought, Mr. Mayor, I would like to maybe propose that there be a mover and seconder for the amendment to this motion, before council debates, have it debated, and
I was going to see how council felt, and then I would move it to an amendment if council.
Okay, that works too.
Thank you. Appreciate your help, Mr. Chair.
I try.
How many corner lots do we have here?
Yeah, that's what Councilor Belcher's looking for.
Dozen or so.
Yeah, I have that, yeah. Well, would you like to see it debated? Again, in speaking with, the Public Works Manager, he didn't have concern with that. I'm okay at the 5, but if council wishes to debate that. Councilor Boulanger, I'll leave it up to you if you'd like me to ask for an amendment for mover and seconder on the amendment 10 to 8.
I would still like to, yes, it's interesting, and I'm not just speaking your conversation with Public Works, but I have a different one saying.
Okay, I'll move it for an amendment.
Okay.
Do I have a mover for the amendment? Councilor Boulanger, second. Councilor Manchuk. So the amendment is to go from 10 to 5 to 10 to 8. We can now debate this. Councilor Boulanger, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that was my concern, and I'm just going from what Public Works said, when it was first approached, but maybe there was further discussion. So my discussion was led to believe that
Okay.
he didn't want to see it lower than that.
Any other debate on this? Councilor Pelletier, originally you were okay with 10 to 5? Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna call for the question on the amendment only, from 10 to 5 to 10 to 8. Those in favor of going to 10 to 8,
3 opposed, that's defeated, thank you. So we're back to the original 10 to 5. Thank you. It's a very confusing process. Any other topics of discussion for variances?
Not for sure.
No, I did have some concern with that block 1, but due to the length of their lot and that, the one that's straight south of Rosie Bloom with the, drainage easement, they're not gonna put houses right into that, so I'm okay with that.
Okay, rest of council, any other concerns? Okay, I'm gonna call for the question, all those in favor? That's carried, thank you very much. 5.4.5 bylaw 11/2022 closed Carter Dufault Drive in IDC, do I have a mover? Councillor Mamchuk, second, Councillor Clayton.
Be it resolved that council gives second reading to bylaw 11/2022, being a bylaw to close part of Dufault Drive in Ile de Shane. Council will have a copy of the proposed road closure.
I think you'll open up for council debate. Council?
Nothing here, sir.
Councillor Pelletier, Jerry, any comments?
I understand the concerns on Rosie Bloom. I've been down there numerous times. I appreciated the answer from the professionals on this one. I have a hard time seeing everybody driving that way, because people are lazy. 90% of this traffic's gonna go with the 2 to 59. There'll be some people that drive through to get to the store, but I don't see it being anybody from east of where Rosie, or Dufault is now. I just don't see that as being a viable option for anybody in town, unless they're walking. So I'm good as is right now.
Okay. Mr. Council?
Yeah, I agree. The one concern is about the emergency vehicles. The slow traffic, I believe that will help putting up signs. I don't think people go through signs. If anything, this seems like it will, as Councilor Pelletier alluded to, deter people from going through Rosie Bloom, which will even increase the safety of the children on that street. And again, I'm trying not to say it's my opinion, it's from what I've been listening from the professionals, from the studies that have been taken.
Appreciate that. Anything else from council? Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried 4-1. Thank you. Thank you. 5.4.5.1. Bylaw 11/2022, second reading. Third reading, sorry. 5.4.5.2, bylaw 11/2022, third reading. Do I have a mover? Councillor Mamchuk, second, Councillor Pelletier. Final thoughts, comments?
Just a comment for residents on this that don't like to see, this is a huge development. We've been talking about this one since I was in high school, with Laurier, was a very long time ago. As a town, not just me and him talking about it. This has been the direction that we can go as a town forever. We're landlocked with our neighbors to the east and 2 sets of highways to the west. So this has been in the works, There'd be a lot of objections to us becoming city-like. For me, it's not population that dictates that you're in a town. It's your attitude and getting out of your house and meeting people. Mr. Pesnick is playing tunes on Canada Day for his neighbors in his yard and inviting people over for hot dogs. That's country living. He's in a 5,000 square foot lot. It doesn't dictate being city-like just because your house is smaller or you live in a condo or an apartment. It's what you make of where you live. And that's all I got to add.
I appreciate that comment. Thank you. Any final thoughts? I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna call for a 5-minute break if council's okay with that, because we've cleared the major topics. If council's good, 5 minutes. Everyone can clear out or stay for the rest of the show if you'd like. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. Okay. Councilor Manchuk, you ready?
Yeah, I feel better now. Okay,
Where we're going.
we will resume back and go straight to the top again to item 3, adoption of the minutes. Do I have a mover? Councilor Belanger, second by Councilor Manchuk.
Last regular meeting was held on September 7th, whereby council approved the subdivision for Valley Fiber in St. Adolphe. A variation for that said purpose was denied. They'll relocate the building accordingly as within our parameters. We received also 2 delegations at the meeting and talked about the lagoon expansion in the addition.
Perfect, thank you. Anything else from council, any comments, changes, edits? That's good for me. No, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Item 4.1, accounts not paid to be approved. Do I have a mover? Councilor Pelche, second. Councilor Clayton.
2 batches, batch 16403 in the amount of 363,700 plus change. Batch 16411 in the amount of about $2,000. Summary batch has been provided for the big batch of 16403. Please refer to that if you have any questions.
Open up for council comments, debates, council.
Just on the summary, sorry, we got the Beaudry 9.4K highlighted.
Yes.
Was there a change, or I didn't do the math on the original one, so?
It was a typo error. It originally read 936,000.
I must have missed that the first time I looked at it.
I did not.
Okay.
The creator of the report hit the 3, not the decimal point.
Okay.
Creating such a.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that's all I have.
We encountered some savings.
Carried, thank you. Item 4.2, payroll to be approved. Do I have a mover? Councilor Manchuk, second. Councilor Pelche.
Payroll 18, other than a lot of overtime on the public works side of things, I think the season is starting to close in on projects. It's time to get things done, so no concerns regarding the open keeping provided by public works.
Any comments from the council? I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay. 6.1.1, 416522, 8182, Beaudry consolidation. Richard, the remover. Councilor Belanger, second. Councilor Pelche.
As explained in the planning meeting, this is a realignment more than anything else of property lines between the shop and the residential property. Don't see any complications with the matter. One condition is, of course, to ensure that there is easement on the driveway for access to the shop, and that's part of the condition in the approval.
We'll open it up for council discussion. Council?
No issues here, just basically some luck we have there, so.
Yeah, same.
Okay, call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. 6.1.2, 4165, 21, 8105, Nabel Thomas, removal of condition. Do I have a mover? Councilor Pelche, second. Councilor Manchuk.
Back in the original conditions for the subdivision approval, there was a requirement for the lot to connect to municipal water and sewer. What is being proposed is that there be funds placed in trust by the lawyers for this purpose, and at a later date, they will then be able to connect to the water and sewer when the time is right. So this is just to remove that condition on the original subdivision application approval, and we have funds in the trust.
Thank you. I'll open up for council discussion. Anything to add?
Funds and trust is in writing somewhere?
Yes.
Is it just removed from here? You can do it, like,
No, it is in.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I'll open up, sorry, call for the question, all those in favor? That's carried, thank you. 6.2.1, 2023 board revision appointment of board, do I have a mover? Councilor Marichuk, second, Councilor Belanger.
The board, if required, will be held on October 12th, at 10 a.m. We always appoint, 2 members at large, and those members would be Tom Tenhoff and Wayne Hatfield, as well as members of council, and in the resolution, we have Mayor Nguyen, Councilor Pelletier, and Councilor Belanger.
Thank you. I'll open up for council discussion. Any councilors want to make changes?
I have which I already stated, I have a pre-existing appointment that day. So I was taken off the list.
My apologies.
That's okay.
We would need a body of 5 to be best suited.
Okay.
I thought I maybe put my hand up for this, what do we got?
Yeah.
Can I look at my calendar just quickly?
And Mr. Chair, I wasn't told you because you weren't here at that meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, I was told, I know, we got that. I like doing these, so it's okay. That will be there.
And I think, Councilor Manchuk, you said you were available if need be.
I said I'd be the designated hitter if that.
Oh, we can do a coin toss, but I'm okay.
Okay, that's fine.
You okay with that? Sure. Okay, Councilor Clayton will be.
If someone comes up, someone can make it, let me know.
Sounds good. Thank you, Councilor Manchuk. Okay, call for the question, Councilor Clayton added. Carried. 6.2.2, Arts, Culture, and Sports Community Fund, do I have a mover? Councilor Clayton, second, Councilor Pelletier.
The new rec director, provided a briefing note for council, to look at. Basic. My apologies, I don't see the briefing note here.
It's up for.
Oh, it's the first item.
Yeah.
It's under Arts, Culture, and Sport Fund 1. Okay, so basically, he did provide a briefing note to council. In summary, there's some projects, that, are being applied for St. River, Mine Ball, St. Agat, Arena, the GPHA soccer fields, and the O'Shane Arena. These entities do not own the building, so therefore they need to have consent. The people doing the applications need to have approval from the owner of the ERM to move forward with the grant application. Projects, I believe the grant is, it's a weird acronym, I won't look at it, but it does provide for $25,000 in grant money for individual projects. The only one out of the scope would be the St. Agat one. That one would come in at a 50-50. This is not a commitment for funding on behalf of the municipality, but more of the rights to apply for the grant. Okay. If successful, we will find the money for the St. Agat Arena at a later date. But this is for application purposes.
Thank you. Open up for council discussion. Council, do you have anything to add?
No, good.
Good. Okay.
Supporting rec again.
Fingers crossed. Call for the question, all those in favor? That's carried, thank you. 6.2.3, August 2022 building permit reports, do I have a mover? Councilor Belanger, second by Councilor Manchuk.
August report provided by planning, 25 building permits, total value of construction of about $5.6 million, $21.4 thousand in bills. A little bit more permit numbers, but less in value compared to August of last year, and the year-to-dates are somewhat comparable from 2022 to 2021.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Open for council comments. Nothing? Call for the question, all those in favor? That's carried, thank you. For me. Item 9, adjournment, do I have a mover? Councilor Manchuk, second. Councilor Clayton, thank you. I will call for the question, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. I will close the meeting at 9:41 p.m. Thank you, everyone that attended online. You can now press stop.